Some new approaches to compensation. Some new approaches to compensation. An idea here called the 70-30 plan. What happens with this is that salespeople receive 70% of their income up front with the understanding that to earn that 70%, they must service their clients. The idea here is that management is looking for salespeople to not just sell orders. They want to make sure that the orders that are being sold are ideal fits for the particular client and that company's needs and ability to pay. So they want to make sure that the clients are being sold good packages and that they are being serviced in the way that they should after the sale so that those clients become repeat customers. The 70% is based on hitting budget figures and the other 30% is paid as commission after the fact. Some other structures include incremental performance payoff. The percentage rate of commission increases as a seller meets quotas. If you meet one plateau, your percentage rate of commission may increase a percentage point going forward, and then meet another quota, it goes up again. New account bonuses. Bonuses earned based on the number of new accounts created. Raise the rate. This is a way in trying to increase the lowest rate on the rate card, and doing it in slow incremental measurements so that the overall cost increasing a order is not as huge of a blow to a customer as far as what they expect to pay, but it still helps to be able to increase revenues potential for the station. Customer retention bonuses. Salespeople receive rewards with renewals. So you have customers coming back. There's bonuses there with this type of program. Some other types of bonuses that may be offered include bonuses based on your collection rate. If all of or most of your clients pay their bills on time. First time opportunity calls. If you make so many new opportunities to meet with prospective clients, number of presentations made weekly, closing ratio, and there's all sorts of other ways that companies may use to incentivize their salespeople. Incentive pools. With an incentive pool, sellers are paid a base salary that varies according to their experience, their length of service, and other factors. The pool is collected commissions for the entire team, combined so that each seller earns a share depending on his or her individual contributions. That word sell there should be seller as in account executive. Kind of think of this like when you go to a restaurant or some other place and there's a tip jar that's kind of shared by the entire staff. Similar sort of idea. So when all the sales are collected together, it creates a pool of money, and it's from that pool of money that salary and commissions and bonuses would be paid from. The pool concept rewards salespeople for selling the way that the company wants them to sell and for reaching company goals and not individual goals. Thus, sellers are compensated for cooperation as opposed to billing. The ideal compensation plan is one that rewards salespeople for achieving company objectives as well as individual goals. It's flexible enough to take into account individual differences among sellers on the same staff. So it's kind of that idea of everybody winning. The company gets what it wants. Sellers get what they feel that they deserve. And are rewarded for hard work and for making progress. Not all plans that we've talked about do those things. Some of them do it at varying degrees on one side or the other or both. But really, the environment that's going to work best for a particular seller is the one that is going to motivate him or her the most to be able to make a comfortable living doing what they do with the skill set that they have while still being effective for the company. Another incentive project that's used from time to time is sales contests. Contests are short-term means of directing the efforts of the staff, increasing sales, and building morale. They provide little impact on long-term performance. So this is not something that you build an entire sales philosophy on. A good example would be perhaps in the winter months when sales overall are slow for the first quarter. Perhaps doing a contest that's based on special rates for winter package buys. If you get clients to purchase in on that special package, you would be entered into a contest. If you reach certain billing goals, or perhaps if the company is looking to get more of a particular type of business, you may be entered into a contest based on the number of automobile dealerships that you sell to, or the number of heating and air conditioning sales that you do, or the number of local businesses as opposed to agency buys. Contests can be structured in a number of different ways. The greatest benefit of contesting among sellers is to make them feel like winners personally. They like to get recognition for good performance, and a contest makes the rewards instant and tangible. Now, billing versus collections. It is possible that commissions may be paid based on billings, that is, on orders written. So if within a month you write up new contracts that are worth $30,000, your paycheck for that particular month would be based on the commissions of $30,000. Noting that just because something is billed doesn't necessarily mean that the cash has been received for that order. Most often, commissions are paid on collections. In other words, once the bill is paid. So you don't receive your money until your company receives its money. By paying on collections, your organization takes the precaution that you don't sell advertising to an account that cannot pay the bills. So it's the idea that if a company does not pay on its advertising bill, the media outlet you're working for, they're going to lose out on that money, but also so are you. So it is in your best interest as a seller to make sure you do that qualifying process so that the folks that you sell to, they're going to be able to pay the bills for what it is that you sold them. Beyond money. The word compensation conjures visions of money, but sellers also seek rewards beyond financial remuneration. Approval, respect, and recognition are high on the list of employee hopes for any job. Salespeople seek even higher levels of recognition because they are so often put in situations of constant rejection. It's challenging to be a salesperson and to try to keep an upbeat personality and a positive outlook, even if you know that if you're only expected to close on one of 10 deals or even one of 4 deals, and you're able to do that, there's still a high rejection rate, and that can take a toll on people. So getting encouragement, getting certain types of incentives, training, all those sorts of things are valuable to salespeople. Sales managers and sales directors who reward individual achievement and who recognize both individual and team contributions help both their sellers and their organization. Those who respond to incentives like money, recognition, or hard goods must be self-motivated first, or there's no result. So it's kind of this chicken and egg sort of thing. While yes, a company should do all it can to encourage its sellers, the seller himself, herself, also needs to have a certain amount of self-motivation, self-discipline, and the ability to go out there and get the job done, no matter what comes his or her way. Structuring rates. For electronic media, once overhead costs are met, things like rent and salaries and other bills and that sort of thing, there's no additional cost for selling more advertising. Each dollar beyond overhead cost is profit. So that's a nice thing to have there. It doesn't necessarily cost anything to sell time, because we have time. It's just that it's a finite amount of time. It's our job as sellers to give the messages we sell their intrinsic value. To increase the worth of an advertisement, let's try that again. To increase the worth of an advertisement, we must increase the demand for the medium carrying the message. So there's this idea that the value of something is only as much as we think it is worth. And part of what it's worth is what society as a whole, those that you're selling to, feel that it is worth, and that creates a certain amount of demand. In electronic media, there's let's try that again as well. In electronic media, there's less flexibility in its supply. Again, you only have so many minutes in an hour. And obviously, if all you do is sell an entire hour's worth of advertising, there's no content for people to be attracted to view or to listen to. And that decreases the value of the advertising time that's available, because at least as of yet, no one has shown a desire to listen to commercials 24/7. Inventory in electronic media can be compared to inventory in the airline industry. I love this example from the book. An airline has a finite number of seats, and the airline wants each plane to leave the gate with a full load of passengers. That's why the best pricing is available on advanced purchases. So we already know, for the most part, how many avails we are going to have in an hour on our station. And the sooner we can sell those off, the more comfortable our position is, and we're willing to let that go, generally at a lower rate than if there's a couple of spots available here and there, and people are looking to buy that time, which increases the demand, which means the price of those avails that are left over are going to come at a premium. Or if someone's getting real close to trying to buy that time with a limited amount of time to get a commercial on the air, there may also be an increased cost just in order to be able to rush through the production, to be able to get through making sure that spot is able to air at the scheduled time. The later you buy your seat, the more it costs, even though the seat bought hours before the flight has no greater intrinsic value than the seat bought a month in advance. It's on immediacy of need, which helps to create the demand for that particular supply. Adding supply does not create demand by itself. Demand must be created through programming that attracts a large audience, or by sellers who can demonstrate the effectiveness and value of a medium, even if the audience is small. So we're looking at it from two different perspectives here. On a popular station where you have lots and lots of eyeballs, you have a huge general audience, which is going to attract certain advertisers to be able to reach as many people as possible. On the other side, you may have certain programming that only attracts a certain type of audience, but that may be the very audience that that particular advertiser is looking for, and to that advertiser that is valuable. Now here's a little bit of a wrinkle in the whole idea of supply and demand. Not every advertiser wants to buy at the time when supply is at its most flexible, which would mean that they would be able to get better deals on the advertising time. A lot of times businesses have to go with the flow of their own business. Seasonal advertisers have seasonal patterns. We're coming up to the springtime where you're going to have a lot of like nurseries and building supply stores and that sort of thing start ramping up their advertising campaigns because the weather's going to get warmer and people are going to start thinking about home improvement or gardening, things like that. Auto dealers target end-of-model clearances and new model announcements in late summer and early fall. Florists interested in Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and prom time, so they're going to buy around those times to attract listeners and viewers. Local events create retail and sponsorship opportunities for both advertisers and media outlets. So the events happen whenever they're scheduled, and the advertising time for those is going to very much be time specific. So just because there's avails open doesn't necessarily mean that advertisers are going to rush to buy that ad time because they may not have anything to sell during those times. First quarter, winter months, in large part, many advertisers kind of go quiet because they just got off the Christmas rush and they're preparing for what's going to be happening in the warmer months. Just tends to happen that way. When advertising demand goes up, the rates also go up. That has not been a deterrent to advertisers, again, because they have to advertise based on their own business cycles and what their needs are in order to grow their businesses. As demand squeezes inventory, even guidelines for efficiency like cost per point and cost per thousand are often discarded. Because again, if the advertising is needed and the demand is there, then they will buy, even at inflated costs, depending on, their ability to be able to do so and the way it meets their particular needs as advertisers. Revenue projections. Commercial inventory exists to be sold. Unsold inventory is lost revenue, and that means lost forever. We can't go back in time. We can't sell open spots from yesterday. We can only sell what's coming up in the future. The National Association of Broadcasters advises station owners to evaluate past, current, and projected rate card pricing for network, national, and local commercials, then to review station logs for unsold and oversold areas. So basically an evaluation process looking at what a station has available, what they're charging for those particular avails, and taking a look at their logs to see how they're doing in those regards. They may take a look at that and review and either decide to raise or lower their rates depending on how well they're doing. They may choose to increase or decrease the amount of avails if they have the flexibility to do that. All that part of taking a hard look at what your situation is and where you would like your situation to be. So how do you project annual revenues? Well, it's not all that hard. You take a look at the number of commercial avails per year, and you start off by looking at how many avails you have per day and then multiplying by number of days in a week, number of weeks in a year. And generally, you're going to look at the avails at which you can realistically be able to receive revenue for. By and large, you're not going to get a lot of advertisers looking to pay for overnights, especially in radio. So you want to keep that in mind. Make sure you're only counting hours that and avails in hours that are realistically sellable. So number of commercial avails times the projected sell-out rate, because most stations are not able to sell all of their inventory. The standard is to project 70%, depending on your situation. At your station, you may project a lower percentage rate or a higher percentage rate. Then you take that, multiplied by the average cost per spot. So taking into account everything on your rate card and determining what the average of that would be, looking from the lowest to the highest adding all that up, figuring out the average, using that in this particular formula. So number of commercial avails per year times the projected sellout rate times the average cost per spot. To increase revenues, you have two options. You either increase the sellout percentage. If you're projecting 70%, can you realistically project 75% or 80%? The other option is to increase the average price per unit, looking at increasing how much it costs to advertise on your particular outlet, and whether your market conditions would allow for that to happen. Let's take a look at the rate card. The rate card describes pricing. Some say it sets the rate, but really what winds up happening is that the rate card is the suggestion of an opening rate for negotiation. So what you have printed on the rate card may be the quote-unquote official price, but because negotiation is a process that we deal with in the sales cycle, it's possible for an advertiser to be able to negotiate a lower rate. Base rates depend on the size of the audience a program or medium will deliver. The bigger the audience, the higher the rates, and the higher the demand on that particular inventory. In most large market radio stations and in all large market television stations, rates are set by sales management on a daily and sometimes hourly basis. So it's taking a look at the market conditions, what's happening in their communities, also looking at the amount of avails they have on a particular day, using that information to change rates as is necessary. One tool they have for that is the grid card. Grid cards are written versions of rate fluctuations. So if you were to look at a grid card, what this will show is a series of different rates for different time periods, usually whether it's day parts on the radio station or different programming on a television station. And you may see on the grid several levels from a level 1, which would have the lowest rates that you would sell advertising for. And then there could be 3, 4, 5 or more different levels that are on that grid, so that the more that demand is increased for the particular ad time and avails, the higher those prices go according to that grid. Grid cards are inventory sensitive. Gridding is based upon the age-old concept of supply and demand. When availabilities are tight, as time comes along, it comes at a premium and it costs more. Local cable and radio sellers will encounter the letters AUR. AUR stands for the average unit rate. In television, a high-dollar sponsorship might be combined with commercials in a less expensive day part or program to make the rates more favorable. So if you're buying in prime time, for example, which tends to be the most expensive day part for a television station, a package might include having commercials air on a much more affordable day part, either during late fringe or early morning or midday, and that helps to be able to bring the average cost per spot down. Radio salespeople package a few spots in morning drive with a few spots in the evenings to be able to create a favorable average rate for the client in that way. So it's more in terms of time of day as opposed necessarily to what particular programming is on, since many radio stations just follow a particular format of music. Although you might see rates based on programming, especially for talk stations.